What's up? What's up? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on these two guys right here, DJ Vlad and what's the guy named Adam 22, right? And the reason why I'm speaking on DJ Vlad and Adam 22 is because these guys are like caught up in the situation that's going on over in California on the West Coast with Big U and Whack 100 and the guy Loose Cannon and Brick Baby, right? And so my question is, do these two guys right here, like, do they think that white privilege is going to be able to keep them safe when they dealing with these guys like involved in crime and guys who are affiliated with different um gangs, right? Now, for some reason, like some people seem to think that when you're dealing with, if like these guys in particular, Vlad and Adam 22, like when like they think that because they are so-called like civilians and they deal with guys that are involved in the street life, they think that they get a pass. And I don't, I think what's they really are in a dangerous, both of these guys are in dangerous situations. Because anytime when you deal with media, right, at any level, it's very competitive, and the media is like a cutthroat type business, because the media they hold people like their image, their fate, um, like it affects like how you look publicly. So now when you go down to like the into the street level and you start talking about different crimes and snitching and stuff like that, where there are like immediate and excuse me, there are immediate consequences for things that you say on these platforms and stuff like that, people can get very desperate. I saw Whack 100 was being interviewed by what's the guy named DJ Academics, right? And Whack 100 wanted to wanted to control the narrative, and he didn't like the questions that Academics was asking him. He didn't like the line of questioning that, because it made Whack 100 look more so like he was working with the police and like he was a snitch. So Whack 100 got really aggressive, was cussing him out and calling him dummy and asshole and things like that. So when and so that it kind of made me think like these guys don't really know what they up against when they dealing with these kind of people, because at every level, like I said, at every level, it's important to be able to control the narrative. It's important to be able to put the stories out there the way you want to be able to put them out there. And sometimes when you have these guys like this who put stories out, and they don't, and it makes them look bad, or somebody might get arrested, or somebody might lose their life in one of these type of situations. These guys don't realize that they putting themselves in a whole lot of jeopardy. They're putting themselves in harm's way, and they think that because they are, they white guys and they from the, they like the culture, but they not of the culture, that they are not, that they are immune to certain like penalties and repercussions that come with speaking on certain topics. I know that like even in Chicago, they had a guy who had a podcast who wound up losing his life because he was doing a lot of he was covering like the drill rappers that went in that city, and and so they went after him and got rid of him. And there have been people have said that DJ Vlad is intimidated and may have even been extorted himself by Big U. And so when they had a panel and everything, and DJ Vlad and what's the guy, Adam 22 and Whack 100 and all those guys was there, DJ Vlad refused to say anything negative about, even the obvious. He about what's the guy named Big U. He refused to say anything negative about him, and that's when I thought, I was like, he might be getting pressed, either from Big U or maybe somebody in Big U's circle is probably pressing him, and or maybe intimidate him to the point where he don't want to, he know that it could be, it wouldn't be good for him to say anything negative about Big U. And so, I just think that all these guys who have these podcasts really have to be careful when they, when they deal with these guys who are in the streets, and they come to you with information, or come to you with not just information, but these stories about, what goes on in a street like that, and you promote that on your podcast. You have to know that it's going to be some blowback at some point in time. But I do think that because they, these guys are not from the culture, that they kind of they get a pass to a certain extent. But as people start to lose their life, and lose their freedom because of what's being said on these platforms, and the people that are on there, that eventually there's going to be some blowback. That's not something that I'm wishing on somebody, but I think at some point in time, there's going to be some blowback. From time to time, I remember this guy, Adam 22, used to have his wife at the studio, and she'll be, in there while he was interviewing. And now, lately, he don't even have his wife at the studio, because he know that, if there's certain guys around that, certain people that he don't want his wife around, and he don't want her to encounter certain situations. So he probably tell us just not safe for her to come to the studio. But my thing is, he need to think about that too, as far as when it comes to himself. Like, he need to, and I know his podcast is very popular. Vlad podcast is very popular, but these guys have to be, they got to be really just misleading themselves if they think that because they are not of the culture, or and that they are media, and they not in the gangs or anything, they not in the street life, they just providing a platform for people to talk about different things that go on in the street, that they are immune to, to the street life. Like, this street life won't catch up with them. And it's not true. It's not true. I think sooner or later, like I said, with people, are dealing with these, you're dealing with your freedom. And so it'll be important for these guys, the people who are being talked about, it's important for them, just like at any other level, to try to have as much control of the narrative as they can, and as I watch these different podcasts, and I see people, um, talk, they just, nobody wants to be known as somebody who's working with the police. They don't want to be known as somebody who is a snitch, and they don't, so, and those things will get you in a lot of trouble. So you can't have these guys on these different platforms, you know, um, painting you in that light. So, and if you can't control that narrative, you can't control the person that's putting out that narrative, then sometimes that person, like I said, could be in the physically in danger. So yeah, I just wanted to speak on that, but I do want to know what are your thoughts on people who think that just because they're not from the culture, um, or they are, they call themselves media. Like, what do you think? Do you think that these people, are they fooling themselves by thinking that they are immune to this street life, some of the consequences that come with speaking on it, and some of the consequences that come with putting yourself in between these some of these guys in the street? So, those are my thoughts. Those are my questions, rather. And yeah, so with that being said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, tune into on the weekends. We do a live show on Saturdays and Sundays. And yeah, don't forget to leave a comment, and we will I'll check you out in the next episode. Peace.